Hi everybody, I'm recording this video today for completing, hopefully, our tutorial today. And I'm also going to add a little things into this video so that if you have to go back and look at this video, it has all the notes and all the information you need to get the help you need. Of course, you can still contact me for more help, but I wanted to get all this in this video here today. Okay, so let's take a look. So most likely you have our class website bookmarked. But remember, even if you're really struggling in this course, just Google searching my name, Mr. Wachs, should get you right away to my website first click, okay? So that's usually pretty easy to find my website, okay? Once you're on my website, now we need to get to our class web page. So to do that, you're gonna go and you're gonna put your mouse over the place where it says courses, right? Over courses, and then you're just going to click right on the words Computer Science 20S. That will get us right to our class web page. It's the main page where everything is going to be that we need. Okay, so that should be pretty obvious. Now that we're on our class web page, okay, we need to get to the section where the tutorial is, and there's a couple different places. One is you can find it if you scroll down our page to where it says end of year assignments, okay? That's where you can find the tutorial. You can also find it if you continue scrolling down to the section that says remote learning class journal, where each day has been journaled, and that also includes the links to the other videos of me going through the tutorial. So there's a couple different places where you can get at this tutorial, but I'm just going to go here to end of year assignments, and then I'm going to scroll down right here to the looping unit tutorial. There it is, right? It's item 21, the looping unit tutorial. So again, you should probably already know that. That's something that we've been doing throughout, but I just wanted to remind you guys of that. I also want you to remind you that this tutorial you guys are doing is standing in place of an entire unit's worth of marks, right? Instead of a unit test, instead of doing programming problems, instead of doing examples and lectures. This tutorial has condensed the entire unit into a tutorial that was designed to be done in 1 hour. And if you look at the original video of me going through the tutorial, you can see I do it in 1 hour, and it's going to be the last assessment of this course. So it's the last thing to do, okay? So that's why it's important, right? You want to kind of think about it. So there are multiple ways you can do this tutorial, okay? Obviously, one of the ways is to just follow the instruction document. It takes you step by step through it if you just read through it. But for a lot of you, you may not want to type in all that code, and I don't recommend that actually, because it will definitely take longer than an hour if you type it in. So you're also going to want to open the PDF up, which has all the code, and not the instructions, but just the code that you can copy and paste from. And remember as well, if you need to, you can also open one of the videos, this one or one of the other ones, to help you along the process. So let's do that. I'm going to open the instructions document, and I'm going to open the PDF of the code. Okay, so here's that instruction document, and we've seen it before. The goal is here we're going to follow these instructions, which we've already been doing, to set up a project, to create designs, to name objects, to change properties, reading through comments, adding the code, completing the tutorial. That's the idea, okay? Now, as far as the coding part goes, you can type the code from just as you complete your design. You could go and type in this code if you wanted to. But chances are it might be easier to also have this PDF open, which has just the code. It doesn't have like these instructions on it, just the code itself. And you can copy and paste that code. And we've been doing that. We've been doing that up to this point, so I'm going to continue doing that to finish up the tutorial today. So we now had got through all of this code, excuse me, and we were on to some of the last pieces of code here on the last section of the instructions. So we had built this design and we were adding the code. So I'm going to go through the PDF to that section, right? So right here, we had added, so if I look at, we'd finished this design for prize grab. We'd finish the code for prize grab. We'd finish the code for globals. We'd finish the design for our form 2, our game form, and we were entering the code for form 2. So we'd enter the global variables. We'd enter the code for form load, okay, which was quite a bit of code yesterday. We added this thing called change direction, and then we added this code called form key down. So that's where I can find where we left off in this tutorial, form key down. So we are on page 9 of this PDF of the code, page 9, and we're going to continue from there, okay? So we'd finished this code on key down, and you know, you should read through it, like just because the code is here, right? To properly learn the content that this tutorial has compacted, you should be reading through the code and reading through the comments depending on how much you want to understand this stuff. Some of this code went beyond this grade 10 level Computer Science 20S course. So for those of you who would like to get a little more learning, you should definitely look at that. You can ask me questions about it if you like. The idea was, again, to compact the unit into a tutorial, and I realize that means that the learning is a little bit shaky in the way it normally would be done. But that's definitely something you'd want to do, is look through this code, like what does this essentially do? Well, it's checking for which key was pressed. Is it the up, down, left, right key? And based on that, it sets one of our variables to be one of the 4 directions, up, down, left, or right. Okay, so there's that code. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to code a timer. Timers, like buttons, you double click them to add them to the code to it. So the first timer is the countdown timer. So I'm going to go to my design, find my timer for countdown, and I'm going to double click it. By double clicking it, just like double clicking a button, it gets me to the code for that timer. So now I can use the code right here to select it over. Now let's talk a little bit about selecting. We're going to be copying code from our PDF. Okay, so I think I mentioned this yesterday. Sometimes it doesn't always copy easily. So a little tip, if you have to, double click a word first and then click and drag to select the code. Make sure you're only selecting the code you want to paste over. Don't, for example, grab little extra curly brackets that might cause an error. No, you don't always have to grab the comment, but I think it's a good idea. Sometimes that code spans across 2 pages, so you got to be careful about how you do it, like you can see here. But now that you've had enough practice at this, it's probably going to be a little bit easier. So now you can right click and copy it, or as it shows you in the note there, you can also press Control-C to copy that code. Come back here. Now that I've copied the code, I now need to paste it. So let's be sure about how we do this. Make sure our little flashing cursor, that's what this thing is, the cursor, is in the correct spot before you hit paste, because you don't want to paste this code in the wrong spot, okay? So you can paste it by right-clicking and going to paste. That always works. Or you can press, as it shows right here, Control-V to paste it. And there it is. There's the code for our timer. And I actually want to try this one because this is the countdown timer. So this little timer will count down how much time is remaining in the game once we start that game screen. Okay, so let's hopefully, oh, there are build errors. So there was a build error. Okay, yeah, that's going to be an error right now. We better get that fixed up first, okay? So that's something called game over, and you can see here it's a method that you can create using the light bulb. Well, we did that yesterday, so I'm going to use the light bulb and create method game over, and there it is. Now I'm going to take the code for game over, copy it, and paste it. And in this case, I'm gonna, and I think I had that note up there a second ago. When you paste, you can actually paste over top of code, right? You can just paste it right over top. So I don't want this line here anyways. So I'm gonna select it and I'm going to paste my new code right over top of it. Okay, so that's definitely something you can do if you're interested. And there's one other thing you need to do with this. You need to make a change right here to the word state. That's one other weird little quirk there, state. And that will fix that little error that was happening there. So, anywho. Okay, so now I'm going to try this. Now that I think that that is in there, having moved that code over from the PDF and fixed it and cleaned it up, like all the little details that, you know, I still didn't have to type it. And you can type it if you want. That would definitely be a good way to learn this stuff. But using the copying and pasting method that I've been going over the last couple days and putting those notes on the screen so you can pause the video will help you, I think, to get this done. Okay, so here we go. Let's test this. Welcome to Prize Grab. Let's try 33 prizes. Let's create 33 unique prizes. Let's start the game. Okay, and what you'll notice now is up here, this timer is actually running down. It's actually running down, so this game will have a limit. And when it reaches 0, the game will be over. I don't want to test that right now, but at least that's there. Okay, let's move on in the PDF. The next timer we're going to deal with is the one called Hero. So I'm going to go to my design. I'm going to double click Hero. Okay, and I'm going to get ready to put that code in there. Okay, so I know I'm going kind of quickly here, but you can always go back on the video and pause it and rewind it to make sure. You can also come and get extra help from me, but I wanted to kind of get this tutorial to a spot where it's done today. So I'm going to select this code for Hero. Again, please make sure you're going between the curly brackets and selecting that block of code. Remember, we talked about that in the conditional statements code, what a block is. It's the code between two curly brackets. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it. Okay? It sometimes comes in a little cramped, so you can always add little extra spaces if you want to read it. Once again, it's going to create a method here that we have to create. Now this time, instead of using the light bulb, I'm going to do it a slightly different way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go after this curly bracket, hit enter, pushing down these two curly brackets. I'm pushing them down and leaving some space right here where I can put that thing in there. So now I can just scroll down and I can select all of this words check for prizes right up to the last curly bracket. Let me pull back here so you can kind of see that I grabbed a lot of that code right there to copy and paste. Now you don't have to do it that way. You could have done it with the light bulb too. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. So that's a lot of code that got pasted in. There's a lot of logic in this check for prizes section. So it is a tricky section. You're definitely going to want to go and reread this if you really want to understand some of the physics and the dynamics and the way that a lot of this code works for how it actually sort of figures out if they get a prize, and how there's this stuff in here on hit detection, right, or collision detection as sometimes it's called. So that's some interesting code, I think, for some of you, especially those of you that are interested in game programming and that type of stuff. So it is something that I would definitely recommend, that you might want to review if you are interested in this type of stuff, okay? If you're just looking to get your tutorial done, then maybe that's not something you really need to spend a lot of time on. You're just getting it working, like you can see here, okay? But reading through that code is definitely something I would recommend as well for those who are interested. Okay, let's jump back. So now that we're done that, what would be the next thing to do? Well, look at that, we're almost at the end. We're gonna next do the timer for the enemy. So before we run this, we might as well get to this. So let's go back to our design, double click timer enemy, go here, grab the code, crosses two pages. I'm gonna copy it, I'm gonna paste it, maybe add a few extra spaces to make sure I understand it. And then there's one more timer to do, the timer for change. And here it is, it's one line, but I'm gonna copy it and I'm going to paste it. Okay? And that completes the tutorial. That's all the code there. Let's see what happens now if I run this thing. Let's see if we've got a working game at this point. So let's make 73 unique prizes. It'll take a minute to generate 73 completely unique prize values. And then let's start the game. And now you'll notice the enemy is out moving around, grabbing prizes. But also I can use my keyboard to control my hero. And now I can also go out and collect prizes. And with 48 seconds left, notice there's no collision between the hero and the enemy. It's not that type of game. But I can go and collect prizes and try to beat the enemy in terms of how many prizes I get versus how many prizes the enemy gets. Now, there are a couple ways to end this game. If I go out of bounds, I will lose the game. It'll be game over. And then the other way I can lose the game is, the game can be over, is if the time runs out. And if the time runs out and I have collected more prizes than the enemy, then I'm going to win and they're going to lose. You'll notice on each enemy and hero is a counter tracking how many enemies there is, or how many prizes you've collected. There is no way to stop this game by collecting all the prizes. So I'm going to try and grab these last two in the last few seconds. Notice the game's still continuing. But there it is. Time's up. I got that many points. The enemy got that many points. And that's it. That's the game. Now, I just want to show you one more quick one just to show you that another thing you would want to test with this is if I go out of bounds, it says out of bounds, game over. Okay? That's the game. And that's how you finish this thing. Now that it's completed, we're going to have to hand this thing in, right? You always want to hand in your finished work. So I'm going to get a Microsoft Word document ready, just like I would for any other assignment, okay? And I'm going to do like I do with any other assignment. I'm going to copy and paste all the code, but here's the trick with this tutorial. You have now multiple pieces of code, so don't forget that, right? So when I go over here, I'm going to go maybe start on Form 1, select all the code, copy it, paste it into my Microsoft Word document. I'm not done yet, right? I also need to go to Globals, select all the code, copy it, paste it. And I need to go over to Form 2, select all the code, copy it, and paste it. Now, here's the weird quirk about pasting in from Form 2. There's so much code in Form 2, it's going to not format it properly. So with Form 2, what I'm going to suggest is don't copy and paste all the code at once, because it's about 300 lines of code, about 300 and maybe 350 lines of code. So what I'm going to suggest is copy and paste about, let's say, 150 lines at a time. So instead of using select all, maybe go about 150 or so lines. Find a good place to sort of stop. So I'm going to go there, 149, paste it. See, it's still in the blue, so it worked. And then I'm going to go back to Form 2 and continue copying through the rest of the code and pasting that. So that's one little quirk, because there's so much code in Form 2, you're going to have to do it in chunks. Finally, you're going to have to add in your screen captures. You need the screen captures as well to prove to me that it worked. And I didn't tell you how many screen captures this time, but I'm going to leave that up to you to decide exactly how many screen captures you need to prove it. If you don't give me enough, then I'm not going to give you 100% on this tutorial. It'll be slightly lower, like 90 or something like that. But to get the 100, you have to have all the code properly formatted with enough screen captures to prove to me that your tutorial worked. It's not that many, maybe 4 or 5 screen captures. But I'm not going to tell you how many. You're going to have to decide. And if you need help with any of this, please let me know. Okay, that's going to wrap up the tutorial. This is on our website. Have a great day, everybody.